Looking through windows like these is something which I think makes drawings really interesting, and paintings. There are people like Edward Hopper who makes paintings where you're looking through windows. Not just Edward Hopper, there's loads of painters who do this type of thing, but some are more famous than others. And looking through windows and shapes can make drawings and paintings really engaging. I like to take advantage of the spaces in pieces of cardboard because I think that makes the gaps where the drawing isn't there really interesting and engaging. So it's all drawn on except for these spaces where I couldn't draw there. I use certain things in like to mask off areas. So I use post-it notes to create spaces in drawings. This is one from 2 days ago. Technically yesterday, that's when I actually finished it, even though it was supposed to be for 2 days ago. The point being, this is a great thing in my view to make drawings really interesting and to create shapes in the drawing that are geometric and you can do chaotic things within them. For this drawing, I'm going to do something that I've done before, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently in this version. I'm going to use a box of tissues, take out this space here and use that alongside a smaller version from a smaller box. So it's not the one from here, because look, it's way smaller. And I'm going to put them together to make the drawing have a frame within a frame. I don't know how it's going to look until I do it, and that's part of the excitement. On a side note, in case you're wondering what this has been on my face for the last 3 days, I think it is. It's really been bugging me. I was hoping it would have healed by now. I had a hair which was like a bramble bush. It was really thick, and when I was going to bed I could feel it. It was kind of itchy. I don't know if it was ingrowing, but I was picking it with my finger and picking it. And then the next day I got tweezers, pulled out the hair, and then from that point onward I have this. Now it's not a lump, but it is a red patch. I'm sure it'll heal and go away soon. In case you're noticing it on the video, if you're new to the channel, that usually isn't on my face. Not a big deal, it's just I always look at it like, what is going on that face? Anyway, here is the drawing. As always, it took me far too long to get the drawing started, so this has been a lovely evening, and I thought I would film a bit of the sky just to show how clear it has been. Been lovely. I haven't been out all day. It's been an indoor day for me again today, which has been happening a lot lately. But never mind, I had work to do and that has got to be done sometime. So here's the sky and the lovely moon. Now, getting on to the materials itself, I thought I would use the quite thick paper that I've used before, but I've cut it down to A4 instead of A3. In case you're new to the channel or you haven't seen the last couple of videos, basically 2 videos ago I did an A3 mutation drawing that took so long to complete it wasn't uploaded until early hours this morning, which is now the 22nd, but it was supposed to be for the 20th, and I uploaded it on the 21st, but it passed midnight. I still consider it to be the Saturday. Today is Sunday the 22nd, and I am doing a mutation type of drawing, but it's going to be on A4 paper, and Like I said, it's kind of based on the concept of a window or a gap or a space. And that's what I did for the drawing, which I showed at the start of the video. That's the one I'm referring to, which took 2 days to complete anyway. The point is, this is the concept. This is what I'm doing. I'm using the tissue box, the kind of oval which is left over that the tissues feed through, as a masking device. And masking just means something where you can draw over it, and then when you remove it you have this shape left over. The key to doing this, in case you've never tried this out, is making sure that you cover every single part of the oval before removing it, because if you remove it before you've drawn all the way around it, then you will be left with space that you then can't establish what the oval is. And I don't draw an outline in pencil first. I did at one point in this, but it was at the point where I was using a larger oval. Anyway, we'll get to that later. For the time being, what I'm doing is I'm using the smaller oval, and you can see me here using that from a smaller tissue box. Because I had the difference in the two, difference in the size of the ovals, that's what made me want to do this type of a drawing. And because the drawing from a couple of days ago took too long to finish, or so long to finish, I had sworn off making any more mutation drawings, and I should have known better, because that is my niche, I suppose. So that wasn't going to be adhered to. I was going to do another mutation drawing. I love doing them, and here is another one. But it's only my second one of the month. I've been drawing every single day of the month and hiding the day, the number of the day, inside every drawing. So with this being the 22nd of October, the number 22 will feature inside of this drawing somewhere. But for now, all I am doing is establishing the frame through which I will draw, and that part is what I think is kind of the exciting setup of what will become quite a highly detailed doodle. I think that's fair to say. So this is how I set it up before I start to play within the picture plane. Once again, quick recap in case you are new to the channel or you don't know the term picture plane. I will quickly breeze through what that is. The picture plane is a concept that whatever you draw or paint or produce onto a 2D surface becomes the picture plane, where you can create depth and dimensions beyond that flat surface. So anything that you do, where it is people or buildings or cars or windows and shops and streets, or anything that you can think of, is the picture plane, where you can create that world. And there are ways to create depth and illusions on that surface to make it look as though it isn't just a flat piece of paper or canvas or whatever it is that you're using. That is what I mean by the picture plane. Now, what I'm doing is I am trying to create an illusion but keeping it flat. So I like the idea of drawing around different shapes and patterns, just like I mentioned at the beginning, and using this oval is a way for me to imagine what can be maybe like a portal or a well or a window or a mirror, where things exist inside of that realm, and it can be anything. And a lot of the things which I draw from my imagination cross over into what I call mutation drawings. Now, all I mean by that is it's sort of like a biological or organic forms, but it looks as though it is, I don't know, hard to recognize, I suppose. And it becomes kind of lumpy and bumpy, and it can have wires in there and all types of things. And mutation is just my shorthand term for an abstraction of figurative inspiration from which I don't use reference. That sounds like a jumble of buzzwords. So abstraction as in you can't identify what it is, but it is from figurative reference, so it looks as though it's internal organs, or it could be parts of a meal that you've had on a plate. But if you abstract it slightly and make it stretch or fold over or wrap around something, then it becomes something else. And that's what I like to use, is things which are almost familiar but not quite. That becomes what I call the blanket term of a mutation drawing. These are really fun for me because it means that I can explore what shapes work together and what it looks like when you introduce something which I may not have tried before. So in a couple of the drawings, I've done things which I consider to look like ribs, and someone mentioned to me recently that to them it looked like fingers. I love that observation because they're not wrong that it looks like fingers. They're not wrong that it is fingers if that's what they're seeing. I'm not actually drawing ribs, I'm just drawing shapes to try to disrupt the monotonous repetition that can occur when you're trying to create forms and patterns from imagination. A lot of the time I will repeat the same thing, and I'm trying to avoid that if possible. So this was a great experience for me to push through that once again, and I did it with much smaller forms than I normally do, because I usually have big bumpy forms with bits of bobbles in them, and this one doesn't have that. It's a lot smaller forms, so I like that type of thing. And on top of that, having the ability to use these oval shapes with a gap in them just creates an additional interest. Now, I did use a small notebook as well just to create a frame around them. That's where I started to use a pencil, as well as I needed a pencil for the larger oval because it was cut on one side, a little finger gap so that you can rip it out of the actual box of the tissue packet. So I used a pencil to make sure that I could create the oval, or I could align the oval when I turned it around from top to bottom, because I needed it to be a whole oval and not have this little finger indents from it. And then I also used a pencil to outline a frame around it using a notepad. To me, that's quite a nice, interesting pattern.